We live in a day when there has never been less excuse, scientifically, logically, rationally, philosophically, ethically, morally, on any level, for the murder of unborn children. We know, every time I hear a millennial online say, well, it's not a human until 23 weeks. What was it before then? Was it canine? Feline? What was it? I mean, we are really reaping the result of no longer teaching any type of meaningful logic, history, morals, ethics in the public. We used to call it the educational system. It is now simply the public indoctrination system. And the amount of absolute blather that flows from the hearts and souls of modern secularists is next to impossible for me to even wrap my head around, let alone show any respect toward. We live in a day where, in essence, the womb has a window. We have seen the impact of this. We have seen, because most of us have grown up, well, I certainly didn't, but most people in the audience have grown up being able to see ultrasounds hanging on the refrigerator when someone is pregnant. You may have seen your brothers or sisters in the womb through ultrasound. Now, that came after me. My children, we experienced that with my children, and then certainly with grandchildren after that. But even back with my kids, those were very grainy, difficult to read things. Now you've got such incredible resolution that the darkness and silence of that womb has been broken. And the reality that each one of us began our existence there is well known. We know so much more about embryology. I mean, that was, for me, as a science major in college, that was just one of the most fascinating areas. And we've learned so much in the past 30 years since I did that study, and yet there's still so much mystery. And even when we discover certain mechanisms as to how certain things develop and what the keys are that allows this to take place, it just boggles the mind, the idea that this just happens. There's no design, it just takes place. No, it doesn't. There is design, there is beauty, there is order, there is purpose. And as we recognize that, for example, the old ontology recapitulates phylogeny garbage from years ago is completely bogus, that it's no longer true, that the embryo goes through the stages of evolution in the womb and all that kind of foolishness that was foisted upon people for decades. We truly have more information today than we've ever had before. We can do in uterine surgery, and we can do so much more than we've ever been able to do before, hence leaving us completely and utterly excuseless for the existence of maniacally evil organizations such as Planned Parenthood that thrive on the murder of unborn children and that own a substantial portion of the most powerful politicians in the United States government. To even say these things, I risk this program ever being able to stay in public distribution, because the powers that be in the major technical companies are all ultra-leftists. They have no interest in honesty, fairness, truth, free speech, liberty. They're totalitarians to the core. And hence, any expression of the truth, which they cannot begin to dispute, but because it might hurt someone, it might hurt someone's feelings. The idea that the hurting of someone's feelings who's been born is more important than the dismemberment of a child who has not yet been born, indefensible morally, ethically, on any level. But that is where we are. The head of Planned Parenthood is leaving, and the Babylon Bee did a great article about an internal memo of who to get to take her place. That brought up pretty much a number of the nastiest characters, mass murderers of history, demons, various sundry other mechanisms. Did they bring the Borg in? I wonder if they brought the Borg in, because that would be one I would suggest. Or species, whatever that was, 73849 or whatever it was. I never memorized the number, but that would fit pretty well as well, I think. But here is a woman celebrated, and you just truly, when you think about the guilt that that woman and every person she has bought and paid for in the United States Senate and House of Representatives, every judge, every one that they have bought and paid for, will bring the guilt of the bloodshed with them before a holy God. And there will be no excuse. There will be no place to hide. When you think of Jesus' words about Chorazin and Bethsaida in light of Sodom and Gomorrah, i.e., the more light you have, the greater will be your judgment. Well, in light of where we are today and our knowledge of exactly what we're doing, species 8472, thank you. I'll have to memorize that. I knew someone would, Who did? Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, in YouTube? Oh, okay, all right. Are you looking it up? Oh. Well, because now everyone's going to want to know, But anyways, and if you don't get what any of that is, don't worry about it. It's a Star Trek thing, and only one particular, I think it was only in one particular series. Anyway, none of us can rejoice when we think of the frightful wrath that will come upon such individuals, because we know we're deserving of the same kind of wrath for many other reasons. But at the same time, there is something right about recognizing that justice will be done. That all these children who have been murdered in the womb merely for the sexual convenience of those already born, they cry out for justice, and that justice will be done. That justice will be done. You can't say that in our society anymore, but that justice will in fact be done. And so as I saw pictures of socialist senators fist bumping each other on the floor of the United States Senate in having blocked the bill that would have forbidden abortion after 20 weeks. Someone posted, I almost reposted it myself, a picture of Moloch worship. And that's exactly what you have. This is a sacrament for this religious group. It is the sacrament. You cannot reject. You cannot reject that sacrament and maintain your membership in this particular group. It is sacramental in nature. It is viewed as holy. It is viewed as good. And it speaks directly to the essence and the nature of the worldview. That is, that sexual expression is the ultimate good of mankind. Do you realize how dehumanizing that is? Do you realize it makes perfect sense? If you think man's just an animal, then spread your genotype anywhere, everywhere, at all times. That's the logical result of the secular worldview and the secular view of man. But it is absolutely dehumanizing. Absolutely dehumanizing. It shreds mankind. It destroys what makes man different than animals. It is a return to a low-form paganism. The problem is now we have technology to go along with the low-form paganism, and the results cannot possibly be good. But it is dehumanizing. And people recognize it's dehumanizing. We can only hope and pray for a change in our society through the work of the Holy Spirit, through the proclamation of the gospel. That's the only hope the society has. If it continues this direction, when I hear Christians talking about, God bless America, and I just want to go, why? With what? I see no signs of repentance. I see no signs that there is any move toward holiness. And you might say, well, other nations are the same way. Well, yeah, Western culture as a whole, once it is divorced from its foundations, which gave it its morality and gave it its meaningful worldview, yeah, it becomes incredibly ugly what you see. And as you saw those headlines, naming these senators voted against, and there's so many different ways that you could appropriately express it. The dreamers who are dreaming of getting to be born. Just the incoherence. Babylon Bee likewise had one having defeated bill to protect unborn children. Senators return to lecturing us on compassion, and it's exactly the case. One of the things that absolutely offends me beyond all comment is how the left is getting away today with referring to this as women's reproductive health. You're denying women's reproductive health. They've recognized that the pro-choice thing doesn't work. And so what they have to do is keep the object they must kill out of the discussion. And so they talk about women's health care. It has nothing to do with women's health care. It has nothing to do with reproductive health care. They know in their heart of hearts, because they're the ones that are chopping the babies up for parts. Remember? Still doing that. You know they are. They know what it's about. They know that it's about the child. But they know they cannot win that battle in light of the sonogram, the ultrasound. So you just simply close the door to that. Even when someone asks you a question about it, you refuse to answer it. You just beat the mantra and hope that the repetitious nature of it, together with a very thorough indoctrination in the secular mindset within quote-unquote public education, public indoctrination, will get you by. And so far it is. So far it is. I would like to hope that there will someday be a day when we're going to look back. And we are going to just, with utter shock and amazement, go, I can't believe that after having defeated the Nazis and seeing what they did, the experimentation, the unbelievable things that were done in those few short years, that within a matter of decades, in the bright, shining nation, we allowed this kind of activity to take place and blessed it and called it good and moral. And Hollywood and the entire entertainment industry as a whole, through its entire fortune and weight of finances behind the promulgation of this infanticide. I hope someday that we will look back at this time with abject embarrassment. It may not be us to look back. It may be in other people that have taken our place. That would be fitting, and it would certainly have a lot of historical precedent to it as well. So, could not help but to notice these things as we listened to those who have been given a reprobate mind. They have been given over to a reprobate mind, expressing their rebellion, their love of their rebellion, their hatred of life, their hatred of God. And these are the people who want totalitarian control over your thoughts, your behaviors, your children. We need to keep in mind and pray about, though I imagine the decision has already been made, but God is in control of these things. That big Supreme Court case has probably been decided already, and we're just waiting for the months to pass before that decision is handed down in regards to that inevitable clash of sexual autonomy, i.e., man as a mere animal under the control of his sexual desires, and religious liberty and freedom, man as image of God, worshiping God. Again, it is a absolute reversal of civilization. It is a rapid degradation, moving backwards. That's what we see going on in our culture. And parents, you must be explaining this to your children. Young people, you must understand, when your parents start talking to you about worldview issues, don't let your eyes glaze over. Your parents need to speak to you about what is going to allow you to stand firm and to have real meaning as a human being made in the image of God. The society around you wants to steal that from you, wants to take from you that which will make everything else worthwhile in your life. Without an understanding of who you are as God's creation, anything else you accomplish in this life will be robbed of its value. You must understand who you are as the creature of God. That is where your value comes from. That's what makes your self-sacrifice, your service to others worthwhile. The world around you will want to take that from you. As your parents seek to explain to you what the Christian worldview is, listen carefully. Pray that God will give you understanding and make it real in your life. Because I cannot imagine, I love my grandkids, but I can't imagine the world they're going to be facing. In comparison to the pressures that I faced when I was their age, I faced nothing. I had it easy. They're going to have a foundation, and I can trust God. God knows his people. God can bear his people up, but my grandkids, that generation, unless God moves in great revival, which normally follows after great judgment, they are going to be facing a technologically supercharged amalgamation of 1984 Brave New World that we can only begin to theorize about right now. And I don't even know what to say to them, because what if they ask, well, why did your generation allow these things to happen? I think a lot of us have to say, well, because we were so concerned about our 401ks that we didn't look into the future. We were very satisfied with our ease of life. And so we didn't warn people because it was easier to keep your mouth shut. I don't know. But anyway, certainly in observing the events culturally over the past number of weeks, just in that particular area, let alone in the continued number of examples of, well, not just in the United States, but looking at what's going on in Canada, just to our north. The rise of state-sponsored secular totalitarianism is upon us. And we must pray for God's intervention. Not in the sense of just sitting back and doing nothing, but only God can change hearts and minds. And Western culture needs revival in a major way.